key milestones in China's journey to conquer space. More than half a century ago, when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, the world assumed the United States would forever lead the space race. Yet today, as you gaze up at the sky, it may not be an American flag, but another mark quietly etching itself into the annals of cosmic history. No fanfare like NASA's press conferences. No grandiose promises like those of SpaceX. A nation once dismissed by the West as a follower has silently soared through geopolitical orbits, reaching heights that, just 30 years ago, few believed it could touch. In just 50 years, China has built a space program, from a simple satellite broadcasting music to crewed missions, to detailed mapping of the moon. And now constructing an independent space station, while the International Space Station prepares to retire. While the US took nearly 30 years to restart its lunar exploration program, China has turned space conquest into a national strategy, quietly, steadily, and without needing anyone's permission. Join Top 10 Discoveries Official as we explore the pivotal milestones China has quietly conquered, and why this race could determine who leads the 21st century. 1. The first step, Dongfang Hong 1, 1970. When the world was divided into two opposing camps, and the US and Soviet Union traded blows in the race to space, on April 24, 1970, a new power quietly entered the arena. China. The Dongfang Hong 1 satellite, weighing 173 kilograms and shaped like a 72-faceted aluminum polyhedron, was launched from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center using the Long March 1 rocket, the first launch vehicle entirely designed and built by China. Just 13 minutes after liftoff, Dongfang Hong 1 entered orbit with impressive parameters. Perigee, closest point to Earth, 441 kilometers. Apogee, farthest point from Earth, 2,286 kilometers. Orbital inclination, 68.42 degrees. Orbital period, 114 minutes. Remarkably, Dongfang Hong 1 was over twice as heavy as the first US satellite, Explorer 1, which weighed a mere 14 kilograms. This was not just a technical leap, but a deeply symbolic one. Unlike other scientific satellites, Dongfang Hong 1 continuously broadcast a song into space. Dongfang Hong, the East is Red, a hymn praising Mao Zedong. For 20 to 28 days after reaching orbit, this song echoed across radio waves, an unmistakable message amid the fervor of China's Cultural Revolution. Behind this seemingly simple event was a strategic program called Two Bombs, One Satellite, a top-secret plan to elevate China to the level of superpowers, led by the brilliant scientist Qian Shusen. Qian, who had worked on the U.S. Jet Propulsion Laboratory's rocket program before returning to China during the anti-communist era, laid the foundation for China's modern space industry. Just 15 years after successfully testing its first atomic bomb, 1964, China launched its own satellite into orbit, faster than the U.S. had achieved in its early days. China became the fifth nation to do so, following the Soviet Union, the U.S., France, and Japan, and crucially without any foreign technological assistance. What makes this feat extraordinary is the context. In 1970, China was deeply isolated under U.S. sanctions, estranged from the Soviet Union, and viewed with skepticism by the Western world. In such circumstances, the successful launch of Dongfang Hong 1 was a quiet but resounding declaration. China was capable of competing in the most secretive domains where only true superpowers held sway. It also marked the start of a long-term strategy, weaponizing space for geopolitical strength. Not just to showcase technology, but to prepare for a future where national interest would be decided not only on Earth, but in orbit, on the Moon and beyond. April 24th was later designated China's National Space Day, a testament that their cosmic journey was no accident, but a strategy planned from the very beginning. Dongfang Hong 1, spinning steadily at 120 revolutions per minute around Earth, ushered in a new historical cycle, not just for Chinese science, but for the global balance of power in the 21st century space frontier. 2. Reaching for the cosmos. Shenzhou 5, 2003. 33 years after the Dongfang Hong 1 milestone, China once again stunned the world. On October 15, 2003, at 1 a.m. 003 UTC, amid the frigid steppe of Jiuquan, a Long March 2F rocket roared through the night, carrying the hopes of a nation yearning to reach the stars. Inside the Shenzhou 5 spacecraft, a lone figure embarked on a historic journey. Yang Liwei, a 38-year-old fighter pilot, soon to become a living symbol of China's space ambitions. In just 10 minutes, Shenzhou 5 entered a stable orbit, cruising at an altitude of 332 to 336 kilometers above Earth, with a 42.4-degree inclination and a 91.2-minute orbital period. Over 21 hours, 22 minutes, and 45 seconds in orbit, Yang Liwei completed 14 orbits around Earth, in a mission that tested not only physical endurance, but also showcased the technological prowess of a nation newly arrived on the space stage. Inside the compact 7,790-kilogram spacecraft, Yang performed seemingly simple but deeply symbolic tasks. He ate specially prepared Chinese meals designed for zero gravity, spoke with his wife and son via radio, slept for about 3 hours, and carried out a meticulously planned series of scientific tasks. In a moment broadcast live, Yang held up two flags, the vibrant red Chinese flag and the United Nations flag, an image that reverberated in the geopolitical landscape of the time. Shenzhou 5 returned to Earth at 22:28 UTC that same day, landing in the Inner Mongolian steppe just 4.8 kilometers from the planned site, an almost perfect level of precision for a nation's first crewed space mission. However, re-entry was not entirely smooth. Yang endured significant G-forces, resulting in a minor lip injury and some facial bruising, as noted in official reports. Not many people know that not all of Shenzhou 5 returned with Yang. While the landing module safely brought him back, the orbital module continued circling in space for 6 months, conducting military surveillance tasks until it re-entered Earth's atmosphere on May 30, 2004. Few recall that the original plan for Shenzhou 5 was a 7-day mission with 2 astronauts. However, after the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster in February 2003, Chinese authorities swiftly revised the plan. 1 astronaut and a mission shortened to under a day to minimize technical risks. This flexible adjustment revealed a strategic responsiveness and cool-headedness, a lesson many Western space programs took years to learn. Astonishingly, the entire development of China's crewed spacecraft program up to Shenzhou 5 cost about $2.18 billion, less than 1/10 the cost of the US's Mercury program, yet yielding comparable results: a safe, successful, and precise mission. Shenzhou 5 was more than a technical achievement. It was a silent proclamation that China could stand shoulder to shoulder with the powers that had long dominated space. While the US paused its shuttle program post-Columbia, China seized the moment to rise, cementing its image as a new superpower, without waiting for Western approval or recognition. Yang Liwei's solitary flight in a homegrown spacecraft became a milestone the world could not ignore. It wasn't just a technological leap, it was a quiet, strategic advance, signaling that the space race now had a formidable new contender. 3. Aiming for the Moon, Chang'e 1, 2007. On October 24, 2007, while the world was still accustomed to American and Soviet flags on the maps of space exploration, China quietly marked its next major step. For the first time, a Chinese-developed satellite entered lunar orbit. Named Chang'e 1, inspired by the Chinese mythological moon goddess, the spacecraft launched from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center at 10:05:04 UTC, powered by a Long March 3A rocket. Weighing 2,350 kilograms, including 1,200 kilograms of fuel, the satellite was designed to test technology, gather scientific data, and pave the way for grander ambitions: future lunar landings. After 5 complex orbital maneuvers, with engine burns reaching speeds of 10.9 kilometers per second, Chang'e 1 settled into a circular orbit 200 kilometers above the Moon's surface, with a perfect 90-degree inclination. Exceeding expectations, Chang'e 1 operated for 495 days, 4 months longer than designed, before executing a controlled crash into the lunar surface on March 1, 2009, at coordinates 52.36 degrees east, 1.5 degrees south, north of the Mare Fecunditatis. During its 16-month mission, Chang'e 1 transmitted an immense trove of data back to Earth. 1.37 terabytes of raw data, processed into 4 terabytes of scientific data. An unprecedented achievement for a first lunar exploration mission. This data included global brightness temperature maps at multiple frequencies, 3 gigahertz, 7.8 gigahertz, 19.35 gigahertz, and 37 gigahertz. 3D topographic maps detailed to the meter, using a laser altimeter with plus or minus 5 meter accuracy, and maps of 14 chemical elements distribution, notably detecting traces of helium-3, a potential fuel for future clean nuclear fusion. Technically, Chang'e 1 was a miniature masterpiece of China's space technology at the time. It utilized the DFH-3 satellite platform, stabilized on 3 axes, with 22.7 square meters solar panels, generating a peak 1,450 watts of power. Its diverse scientific instruments, from X-ray spectrometers to high-energy particle detectors, enabled simultaneous studies of lunar topography, chemical composition, and the surrounding plasma environment. Data transmission reached 3 megabits per second when beaming information to Earth, using high-power directional antennas and international CE/ESDS standards, a significant leap from prior missions. Navigational precision was equally remarkable, with only a 100-meter margin of error in lunar orbit, thanks to advanced VLBI, very long baseline interferometry techniques. Interestingly, despite being a highly nationalistic program, Chang'e 1 incorporated some international cooperation. The European Space Agency, ESA, assisted with tracking and command relays via ground stations in New Norcia, Australia, Maspalomas in Spain, and Kourou, French Guiana, showing China's knack for leveraging global resources when needed. From its first lunar mission, China launched a 2,350-kilogram satellite, nearly 3 times heavier than ESA's famously lightweight Smart 1 probe. Not only that, Chang'e 1 operated for 495 days, far surpassing its planned 1-year lifespan, demonstrating remarkable technical control and system durability. During that time, it sent back 1.37 terabytes of raw data, equivalent to the total data collected by the US Apollo program's lunar landings combined. If Shenzhou 5 proved China could send humans into orbit, Chang'e 1 revealed a new reality. China was building a long-term foundation for deep space exploration, with the moon as the first stepping stone. Unlike the US in the 1960s, where lunar landings were largely about Cold War victory, China approached lunar exploration with a colder, more calculated strategy, hunting resources and securing economic advantages in the new energy era. The detection of helium-3, a potential clean fuel for future fusion reactors, was an unspoken declaration. China wasn't just gazing at the moon for pride, but for what lies beneath its frigid surface. While NASA grappled with restructuring its lunar program post-shuttle disasters, China, with a modest $180 million budget for Chang'e 1, took a long, sustainable, and strategic step forward, outpacing any other nation at the time. With Chang'e 1, China effectively fired the starting shot for the 21st century's cosmic resource race, a race in which they were no longer merely following others. 4. Tiangong 2, China's orbital outpost. On September 15, 2016, amid global debates about the future of the International Space Station, China quietly launched a new symbol of its space ambitions, Tiangong 2, or Heavenly Palace du Beijing. Unlike projects hyped by media fanfare, Tiangong 2 wasn't introduced with lengthy speeches. It simply appeared, a secretive outpost orbiting at 380 to 400 kilometers above Earth, with a 42.77-degree inclination, moving at a staggering 7.68 kilometers per second and completing a lap around the planet every 92 minutes. Tiangong 2's structure was compact yet formidable, 10.4 meters long, 3.35 meters in diameter, and weighing 8,506 kilograms. This massive payload dwarfed earlier orbital labs, housing 14 cubic meters of pressurized space, life support systems, scientific equipment, power systems, propulsion, and a 10-meter robotic arm for assembly and maintenance tasks. But its true significance lay not in its size, but in how it operated. It sustained 2 astronauts for 30 consecutive days while pioneering a critical technology, orbital refueling, a feat even advanced nations were only beginning to test. In 3 docking maneuvers with the Tianzhou 1 cargo spacecraft in 2017, including 1 ultra-fast docking in just 6.5 hours, China proved it could refuel a space station, a vital capability for any long-term orbital outpost. For power, Tiangong 2 boasted 2 4-panel solar arrays with an 18.4-meter wingspan, generating a peak 7 kilowatts and sustaining an average 2.5 kilowatts, enough to run its control systems, scientific instruments, and life support for the crew. The experiments conducted inside Tiangong 2 revealed Beijing's quiet cosmic ambitions. A cold atomic clock, the world's most precise timekeeping technology, was operated in microgravity. High-speed laser data transmission and quantum key distribution between space and Earth, a secure communication technology designed not just for research, but for sensitive military applications, were tested. Multi-sample material experiments melted albesan alloys in microgravity, yielding valuable data for semiconductor and superconductor technologies. A series of low-gravity physiology studies also prepared for longer-term deep space missions. The historic visit by astronauts Jing Haipeng and Shenzhou as part of the Shenzhou 11 mission not only lasted 30 days but demonstrated the long-term operability of air, water, and food recycling systems, prerequisites for any independent space outpost. During the mission, the crew released a small satellite, Bangsing 2, to photograph Tiangong 2 from outside, another testament to China's advanced space control capabilities. With 14 scientific experiments, including the first quantum communication test between orbit and Earth, Tiangong 2 not only met but exceeded all its initial objectives. After nearly 3 years of operation, on July 19, 2019, Tiangong 2 was deorbited in a controlled manner, splashing down in the South Pacific as planned, leaving no hazardous debris, a responsible approach to the growing issue of space junk. In a space the size of a small room, China built a mobile laboratory capable of generating over 7 kilowatts of power and sustaining 2 astronauts for 30 continuous days. The Tianzhou 1 cargo ship successfully conducted 3 refueling operations, a feat the U.S. had only achieved with the Skylab program nearly half a century earlier. Microgravity experiments produced 18 new material samples, at least 12 of which were recovered on Earth, advancing the frontiers of semiconductors and optical materials. Tiangong 2 was more than an orbital lab. It was China's silent response to Western exclusion from the ISS program. While NASA, ESA, and Roscosmos grappled with budget disputes, Tiangong 2 quietly laid the groundwork for an independent space station, leading a new trend. Space would no longer be the West's exclusive playground. As the International Space Station nears retirement by the end of this decade, China, with successes from Tiangong 1, Tiangong 2, and the completed Tiangong space station in 2022, could become the only nation operating an active orbital outpost. In an increasingly polarized geopolitical landscape, owning an independent orbital base is not just scientifically valuable, it's a strategic power piece. 5. Silent War. What limits has China crossed? If 1969 saw America plant the first human footprint on the moon, over half a century later, as we look at the cold numbers from mission control centers, a new reality is emerging. China is no longer merely playing the game, it's rewriting the rules. In 2023, China conducted 64 to 67 space launches, with 64 to 66 absolute successes, an unprecedented achievement in its space program's history. This figure made China the world leader in launch frequency, surpassing Russia and closely trailing the US. But a deeper analysis reveals an even more striking picture. The US conducted 108 launches that year, but 98 came from a single entity, SpaceX. Elon Musk's company shouldered nearly 90% of America's launch activity. In contrast, China didn't rely on a single player. It built a diverse ecosystem, from state-owned giants like CASC to ambitious private startups like Galactic Energy, iSpace, and Landspace. This isn't just a US-China race. It's a nation versus a corporate conglomerate, creating a dangerously asymmetrical dynamic. A clear look at the data. While China's launch frequency grows steadily at 15 to 20% annually, Russia managed only 12 launches in 2023, a steep decline. Europe fared even worse, with just 3 launches, entirely dependent on Ariane and Vega rockets. The US, while leading in total launches, relies heavily on privatization and faces potential risks to strategic stability. Looking at long-term plans, the gap widens further. China has outlined a space roadmap extending to 2050, divided into 3 phases. Now to 2027, continue operating the Tiangong space station while advancing lunar and Martian exploration. 2028 to 2035, land humans on the moon, build a lunar research station, and plan to sample Venus's atmosphere. Missions the US is still discussing on paper. 2036 to 2050, explore the deeper solar system, expanding presence to Jupiter and beyond. Budget-wise, in 2022, China's space budget reached about $12 billion, only 25% of NASA's, but with a higher proportion allocated to R&D compared to US standards. More crucially, China's spending is centralized, streamlined, and prioritized at a national level, avoiding the fragmentation across agencies and interest groups seen in the US model. Meanwhile, NASA struggles with unstable budgets, stretched thin between ambitious projects like Artemis, returning Americans to the moon, and the need to maintain routine ISS operations. Analyses indicate that by 2025, ISS maintenance alone will cost $3.1 billion annually, nearly 25% of NASA's budget, for a station nearing the end of its life, reliant on aging 1990 systems. At a deeper geopolitical level, today's space race is no longer about who flies faster or who plants a flag first. It's a battle for control of off-world resources, helium-3 on the moon, water ice at lunar poles, and eventually mineral-rich asteroids. The nation that secures these resources will hold the key to the energy and industrial economies of the 22nd century. And in this race, China is quietly building pathways the US is only beginning to discuss. Every satellite, every launch, every space station module Beijing sends into orbit is a stepping stone in a long-term strategy, turning space into a new strategic backyard. While the world debates whether SpaceX can land humans on Mars in decades, China is silently redrawing the cosmic map in its own way. Space, once seen as the purest symbol of humanity's exploratory spirit, is becoming a new arena, where superpowers compete not just with science, but with hard and soft power. Behind every launch, every research station built, every technological advance achieved, a global power redistribution is quietly unfolding. As the International Space Station nears the end of its operational life, China has already filled the gap with the Tiangong space station, boasting technical milestones and long-term life support capabilities that rival any Western system. While the US and its allies debate budgets for the Artemis program, China operates a full-time space station, leads the world in launch consistency, and has clear plans to land humans on the moon in the next decade. If control of trade routes defined national power in the 19th century and control of the internet shaped the world order in the 20th century, the 21st century and beyond may be defined by control of space resources, orbital relay stations, and strategic corridors in the solar system. In this new power game, what we're witnessing today, small steps, quiet missions, labs spinning steadily in orbit, are merely the opening moves. So what about you? What do you think of China's milestones? Do you believe China could rise to lead in the future? Or will the US hold its crown as the battle extends to the moon and beyond? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to keep following the technological battles quietly reshaping the world, don't forget to subscribe and follow Top 10 Discoveries Official. We're only at the first chapter of a much larger revolution.